am.
Now I fight for my people. I fight to be equal. My skin ain't so fair. You treat me illegal. I'm a freedom fighter. I'm Langston in his prime. Check it, I'm a freedom rider. No, I can't be defined by your Western definitions. Bump your superstitions and these crooked politicians. Cause we got nobody listen. I'm here to lead the resistance. I'm here to get what you missing. See, God gave me ambition. No, I ain't hoping and wishing. No, Willie Briggs, I am. Okay. Shirley Chisholm, I am. Okay. Dale Jones, I am. Okay. Wade Noble, I am. Okay. Shaka Khan, I am. Okay. Steve Biko, I am. Okay. Remember Annie, I am. Okay. Freedom Child, I am. Okay. Yeah, we rode on the back of the bus. I know the hood ain't banging with us. I said you watch all the people you trust. Leaving you out, they just leave you to rust. I know the trickery, I can see victory when we unite. Blacker than Barry, I carry the legacy. Beautiful ebony, we are the light. I say power to the people. Liberation for my folks. I got justice on my mind. Freedom is what I quote. I say black bitch, grace eye. I say black bitch, grace eye. I say black bitch, grace eye. Put it up on the black hand side. I say power to the people. Liberation for my folks. I got justice on my mind. Freedom is what I quote. I say black bitch, grace eye. I say black bitch, grace eye. I say black bitch, grace eye. Put it up on the black hand side. Now I stand for the truth. They hung my pics from that nose. They asked me for that proof. We're the ones they try to reduce. We sitting out on that stool. They wanna break up our group. No chain squeezing my mind. To the slave master I'm loose. They wanna burn down my house. Kick me out from they building. Wanna take down my poster. All because I stand for the Trojan. No, I ain't here to be like. I ain't here to be friends. God gave me my grind. We shall prevail in the end. Willie Briggs, I am. Okay. Shirley Chisholm, I am. Okay. Dale Jones, I am. Okay. Wade Noble, I am. Okay. Shaka Khan, I am. Okay. Steve Biko, I am. Okay. Remember Annie, I am. Okay. Freedom Child, I am. Okay. Yeah, we rode on the back of the bus. I know the hood ain't bigger with us. I said you watch all the people you trust. Leaving you out, they just leave you to rust. I know the trickery, I can see victory when we unite. Blacker than Barry, I carry the legacy. Beautiful ebony, we are the light. I say power to the people. Liberation for my folks. I got justice on my mind. Freedom is what I quote. I say black bitch, grace eye. I say black bitch, grace eye. I say black bitch, grace eye. Put it up on the black hand side. I say power to the people. Liberation for my folks. I got justice on my mind. Freedom is what I quote. I say black bitch, grace eye. I say black bitch, grace eye.
ETM Hotel, Rennie, Shawn, welcome in peace. My name is Shawn. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into the Negro Truth, episode 2. For those of y'all who've been following the discussion, please like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. We live on Kofi Pie Side Research Team, and it's your boy, the troublemaker in the building. If you're new to the channel, man, make sure that you sub and that you lock in with us as we provide you with history from the continent and the country, our struggles, our triumphs, our history, the unwritten history, and so forth. But you are tuned in to the Negro Truth. See, in the Negro Truth, we tell no lies. We piss people off, and it is what it is. You might not like what's going to be said. If you missed the earlier episode, I was speaking in reference to something that I continuously continue to uncover regarding our ancestors in the mid to the late 1800s, going into the 1900s. There was something that we did after Reconstruction, though, that was pivotal for Black people. And that was to use the name African as often as possible. In so doing, we created societies that were similar to Eurocentric ideology, and we just put African in front of it. And when we couldn't get into the Eurocentric lodges of Freemasonry, we just created our own under the impression that we wouldn't be accepted by the Euros. And when it came to blackenizing things, or what people want to call just painting everything, we did that, whether it was religion, whether it was their culture, whether it was being a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, we made that black. In our creation of these institutions, the fundamental principles was not on our Africanness. That wasn't rooted or based in our lineage, who we descend from, who've already had these societies and things like that, the rites of passages, um, and this togetherness, this community, this oneness, weren't based on that. They were based on the ideology of Europeans who founded this country, who murdered the people that was here pretty much, and then created this country. So culturally, we're disconnected because our ancestors who created these societies saw no need to hold on to the traditions that probably did make it to the country. And I say probably did because if you read Calloway's book, Africanisms in America, you will see a lot of things that we did bring over here with us from West Africa, and that survived through some of the turmoil. Yet the most important pieces of who we are, we lost. Even though they wouldn't let us practice our traditions and things of that nature on the plantation, come on now. If you knew how to ride a bike and then I take you somewhere where you don't ride a bike for years, and then all of a sudden you have the ability to ride the bike, when you have opportunities to, you're going to know how to still ride that bike. So a lot of things we lost free willy. We were weak. We were mixed up. We were a bunch of things. So come on, man, like the show, share the show, tell a friend, we live. We need to kick some real truth. We're gonna get into it. I see we got EIE in the building and Sutek, the only ones commenting right now. And there's a lot of other watchers that hadn't said anything yet, and that's cool. I wonder if someone else is live. Is anyone else live right now? Because I don't be knowing. But what's going on, everybody? And those of you who will catch the replay. All right, so it's this month is like I said earlier on the first show, is the Women's History Month. And I also stated that women play an instrumental role in our uplifting and our coming out of a very dark space and place in America. Oh, okay. Cool. What up, Pure? I ain't no thing, you know what I'm saying? I don't do those, so I wouldn't know, you know what I mean? I don't know. I stick to the script. And I don't get mad at people, man, who tune into the bullshit. Cause that's what it is bullshit. But they can do that. I just want to, continue to do what we need to do. So, how I want to do this. Everything about the involvement of Black people in early American history is hinges on the fundamental foundation of Christianity in Americas. It seems as if without Christianity, we can do nothing. In order for us to be accepted, we had to convert. We couldn't do nothing. So when we look at our African American societies, right? When we look at these society, hey, you better get over there, man. You better get over there. Ain't y'all arguing Egypt? You got to get in that fight. But as these organizations and things of that nature were built earlier on and created earlier on, especially after Reconstruction and so forth, even before then, right? Even before then, they had to Africanize these things for acceptance. But did they really teach our young, I'm saying our young, let me just say our ancestors, our great grandparents, did they really teach them anything about Africa when they had the opportunities to be able to do so? You know, just like they had those planning parties where they would meet in secrecy, you know, and do certain things to keep the sound from traveling, and they spoke low and they talked about when they would go run away and all of those things, those secret meetings. Like, they didn't ever talk about Africa. I find that very hard to believe. What up, Aunt? You got your name on here different. you tired of arguing Egypt. He talking about he can't get the lesson. Nah, man, this is the Negro Truth. Sute said we need Kofi's calls. Hey, look, man, Kofi at work. Kofi don't want no part of this work, man. He don't want no part of the Negro Truth. He told me already. Nah, man, but I find it very hard to believe that we didn't try to identify ourselves back to what we normally known before we were enslaved and brought over here, even on the brink of the very last slave ship that docked near the Mississippi. I mean, off the not off the Mississippi. I'm sorry, the Gulf in Alabama. What was it, Cotilda? I believe Cotilda was the last slave ship. People coming off that boat was fresh from Africa. They didn't come from the Caribbeans or South America. That was direct. I think the slave manifest showed that was a direct. And you mean to tell me that they parted from Africa knowing who they were and didn't try to keep that cultural the nuances of their culture intact, even in the brink of facing the turmoils of racism, white supremacy at its peak? Yeah, Mobile Bay. It's off the Gulf, but yeah, it's Mobile Bay. I find that very hard to believe that we couldn't maintain and manifest our Africanness, so we adopted the ideology of our oppressor in an attempt to salvage something that doesn't even readily belong to us. Remember, this the Negro Truth. You telling me that we were that scared that we couldn't that we couldn't salvage our ideology on the brink of everything else? Whereas our African brothers and sisters who did land in the Caribbeans, began to hide our uh, Yoruba deities inside of Catholicism to hold some form of their cultural identity and Kimoyo intact. But you telling me that the Africans that actually came directly to the Americas couldn't do what the people did in the Caribbeans? Is that what we're saying? I mean, let me know. So we couldn't get creative at all. So we just said, all right, if they got something called uh, let me pull it up. Let me get back to what I was talking about earlier. Let me pull it up. Give me 1 second. Because I know many people probably didn't look up what I was talking about earlier. So I'm gonna help y'all out. Mm-mm-mm. Hold on, let me just get all this up and we're gonna go from there. Dorcas Society, African Dorcas Society. We just say association. Share my screen. All right, that's cool. I ain't gonna be too much long on here, so we'll be able to do it. So look. A Dorcas society is a local group of people used based in a church. See, everything has to involve the damn church with a mission of providing clothing to the poor. Dorcas societies are named after Dorcas, also called Tabitha, a person described in the Acts of the Apostles. So, for everyone wondering what the hell I was talking about earlier today, Dorcas is described as a person called Tabitha out of Acts of the Apostles, out of the Bible. So just so you know that, it's a reference. One Dorcas Society was founded in Douglas, Isles of Man in 1834 as part of community Thanksgiving for being spared from an outbreak of Corella. Y'all see that? Other societies were established by missionaries in the Americas in the early 1800s. Beatrice Clutskin founded the Glasgow Royal Dorcas Society in 1864. The English Dorcas Society in Sydenham, London, met during 5 Tuesdays in Lent, producing 166 garments in 1 year. Look, Dorcas Society at St. Paul's Chapel of Trinity Church Parish, New York City, founded in 1850. Trinity Chapel, John's Dorcas, to provide clothing to the children in the parish. So here you have it. Now you know the origins. Now you change the game. African Dorcas Association. It's the same thing. But this was created by black women. They sold clothes. They did what they needed to do for the children in the area. They did their damn thing. They organized this. Look at its history. Once slavery had been abolished in New York, there was a large increase in the black population. As a result, The city leaders, both black and white, realized the increasing demand to educate these children. The women in the African Dorcas Association were analyzed by a group of 7 black ministers. This organization held Wednesday meetings every week and elected officer positions to lead the organization. The meetings were one of the first meetings with black women held without the supervision of men. These meetings were held at a home of their president, Margaret Francis. The clothing that they made was given to the members of the children's schoolmates, neighbors, and friends. The association also unveiled the differences in gender dynamic within New York City's black activists because it was geared toward youth. Y'all know the rest of it. If you don't know the rest of it, it speaks for itself. They created it to organize and protect and take care. But there's something significant here. It says the overall activities of the society reflected well on African ethic. So just African ethic? That's it? It's African in name, but the only thing that it seemed to reflect is African ethic. I find that hard to believe that we would create a society, and y'all hear my dog snoring. We would create a society where this would be the only thing that it would reflect from Africa. Look at that. Notable members, abolitionists. This is what we dealt with. I can go do you one better, and I can continue to go as my list will grow. But we got the brothers on some homework, so we're looking to see if they're going to extract a society or an association that was built on more than just African ethic. I just find it's hard to believe. Sute crazy. All right, what I want to do is y'all heard me in part 1. I'm gonna open the floor up. Anybody that want to actually build on it, have a conversation about it, go a little bit deeper than that, we actually can. But I just want to hear other people's perspective on why they think that we hit that we would just ditch Africa like that. CK. She ain't lying. She ain't lying. But I put the link in the chat for anybody that want to join and actually take part in this particular discussion. Or maybe you know a mutual aid society or an association that black people created and developed back in the day that actually was based on African principle. Traditions, customs, things of that nature, rites of passage. This man said Smoke Champs podcast. You spell podcast. Okay, gotcha. Podcast. Let me show this to everybody. So Sutek and Chavis and Satep and Ra putting together a podcast for themselves, which they began earlier this last year and then fell off. So let's see how long this lasts. What are y'all afraid of? Hit the link. Hit the link. Now remember, I will never argue against what our ancestors did to get us to where we are today. That would be a fool. That would be a crazy fool. But I just want to say what I'm saying because it's just kind of mighty funny that that period of change transpires, and then next thing you know, black people start getting free, and then we want to be African again, or we want to reclaim our Africanness, but we don't want to create institutions centered around educating our Africanness in America. Sewing circles. Anybody familiar with what a sewing circle is? It's where women get together and they had these little sewing parties. And these were things that was actually done in the antebellum America. Let me put on the screen, my bad. This gonna lead us somewhere too. He said till I run out of something to talk about. This gonna lead us somewhere too. Right? Sewing circles. They do all of that. Look at that. Other examples of sewing circles include the Fragment Society. It's a charitable women's society founded in 1812 in Boston and incorporated in 1816. Now remember, if they got something, you know we got something. Let's see. Let's see if I'm accurate. Let's pull up Google. Man, that dude snoring up a storm. Tyson. Come on, bro. This is cute. But this is new. So, I ain't no shade on this. But I told y'all we're gonna have something. Black girl soul. And I think this is a beautiful thing. But I'm looking for oh, there we go. Elizabeth Coleman and Sarah Ernst organized African American women into anti-slavery sewing society in Cincinnati, Ohio. A number of abolitionist organizations emerged in Ohio prior to the Civil War. Told you everything's prior to that. Most of these groups were made up of white members, but there were also African American activists during this era. The society's members made new clothing for runaway slaves who were escaping on the Underground Railroad. Although this group was not focused directly on political issues, it performed an important service for runaways. Anti-slavery society. I wonder if we can get a little bit more on this. I'm about to go back. I don't think it's enough. It's just showing stuff. Some primaries right here. Negro women who sitteth spinning in captivity and weepest over the sick child, though no one seeth thee. God seeth thee, though no one pitieth thee. God pitieth thee, raise thy voice forlorn and abandoned one, called upon him from amidst thy bonds, for assuredly here will hear thee. God didn't do shit for y'all. Y'all did all that crying and calling out to him, and he just made it worse. If he did anything. Okay, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere, ladies and gentlemen. Rochester's Ladies Anti-Slavery Society Papers, 1848-1863. What is this? Papers consist of documents generated from the society as well correspondence and various members of the society about slavery and the conditions of freedom. Nah, we don't need that. Even though that's some, it might lead us somewhere. Handcrafted urban intervention in recognition to Rochester. Anti-slave. Sewing. We're gonna have to get to Frederick Douglass. Okay, so here's a book. Yeah, there's a book. This probably be really good to get. CK. Oh, nah, never mind. You ain't gotta do it. I'll look for it. But what I'm trying to get at, man, is I think that we could have did a much better job at not only creating societies for ourselves, but instilling some of the things that we know that was passed down from our ancestors and even those who were directly coming off the boats. We incorporated that into a lot of these societies that we developed, we would have a better cultural understanding of who we were as a people. We wouldn't be in shambles and have a loss of identity. We wouldn't be fighting so hard for white acceptance. And I felt like all of these societies that our ancestors developed outside of the good that they did ultimately was our demise, because they created all of these societies for white Anglo-Saxon Protestant approval, because that's what it is. That's what it means to be an American. And I think that's a problem. For me, might not be for you though. And that's fine. We won't have to agree. We won't have to agree on it. All right, so I'm getting close to a primary here. Let me let somebody in. I'm gonna let CK in. CK is in the building. I'm getting close to a primary though. Let me get out of this Cincinnati article. By the way, we should be chastising Sateppenrod for that, because Cincinnati, that's his stomach ground. Told y'all I was getting close to a primary, so this would give us some type of access. If we were able to do it, I probably got to stop sharing and tweet around to get to it. But this is a female Islander. So our mission was to organize ourselves a sewing society for the purpose of relieving the suffering of the class of a countrymen who had fled from the oppression which they endured under the unjust laws of our country and found a refuge in Canada. The minutes do not indicate location, founding, or ending dates of the society. It was a membership based on society, and its mission also describes in detail that will be provided for the meetings. Okay. What else, CK? We can't hear you.
Peace. What you got going on up in here, Shawn? I thought I'd slide up in here so you wouldn't have no dead air.
Man, I ain't got nothing going on. Look at us all. If it ain't Negro Truth, I don't want
it. Hey, that's all we need, man. But I see you putting in work. I ended up catching the replay on the show you had did this morning. I don't know how I missed that one, but I saw that you were
I be popping up at weird times. People be working.
Yeah. When I start this new job here soon, I'm definitely gonna be missing any live streams anybody do in the daytime. But yeah. So when I saw you were gonna be doing another one, I went ahead and said, "Oh, you know what? I'm gonna watch the next one. I'll be able to catch the next one." and all that good stuff. But I did want to clarify something because I did put a comment on your video that you did earlier today, and I
Hmm.
can just tell somebody somewhere out there is gonna take it out of context. Like I'm just 100% agreeing with everything that you said. That
Ah man.
yeah, that
Yeah.
like so I feel like I need to add context to it. I agree with like the points that you were making in regards to a lot of the earlier Africans that had came over here to America, whether they were freed or they
Mhm.
were slaved and got their freedom later on, and how uh, it seemed like we were trying to be accepted by white people. I don't think it was just that. I think it was
Mhm.
more of a survival thing back then. Because
I
True
agree. I
Story,
agree.
he's went over it. Yeah, he's went over it. True Story that each one teach one. Like he's went over it a couple different times in regards
Yeah,
to
you had instances of survival. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
because if you're we're in a country that we're not from, you're not familiar with the surroundings. You know what I mean? Like you got people that are hanging you, killing you, threatening you. You do the slightest thing wrong, you look at somebody the wrong way, you could possibly be killed. So I could see how, as a way to try to minimize the possibility of any harm coming to us, whether it's racism or discrimination or just straight up being killed and terrorized, like, hey, like maybe if we act more like these people over here, we'll be treated like them. And then like how True Story had went into how, okay, well, hey, well, if that doesn't work, we'll try something else. Like maybe if they don't think we are the people that they brought over here, they think we're somebody else, maybe we'll get treated differently. So let's change our hair, let's wear these turbans, let's back then it was easy to just change your name to whatever. So let me move to this new town and come up with some fancy foreign name, let me create this fancy foreign accent. So hopefully I won't get treated like the rest of the black people if they think that I'm not a black person.
Yeah, my grandmother did that. She was able to, her and her sister, they were able to catch calves when other black people couldn't, because they were that light skinned. And when they needed to get somewhere, they could get somewhere because of their fair skin and their mother. And so they took advantage of that at times, which allowed them to be able to do more things that other people could, because they would do stuff. However, but if they were caught with, other people, then that would be a whole different situation, one they couldn't really get out of.
Yeah.
But they kind of decked themselves in a way, the way they dressed, where you'll just look at them and then you'll turn your head. You really don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't say much else. But nah, I absolutely agree that we did a lot of things to survive, um even after, Reconstruction or Civil War era. After all of that,
Yeah.
we've been
Like
surviving
I don't
for
hold it
quite.
against them for doing it. But
No, no, no,
but I
no, I
agree
don't.
with you in the same turn. Like I agree. It's like I
Hmm.
agree with you, but I disagree with you in the same turn because that part of me that agrees with you is like, oh, like maybe we wouldn't have these identity issues that we have today
Hmm.
if our ancestors didn't do those things that they did back then. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But it's harder for me to be against them than not being more on the understanding end because it's like, yo, you're gonna do whatever you got to do to survive. And even here in 2022, black people are doing whatever they got to do to survive. I would be a hypocrite if I were to say that when I get, not necessarily when I get around white people, but really it's more so when I'm trying to get a job, where I will speak proper, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I will try my best not to use as much slang as possible because it's really hard to not really notice when you're using it because if you're around black people all the time and you're always using slang, even if you're one of the more proper speaking black folks like I am, you know what I mean? Like I still use slang on a regular. It's really hard not to catch yourself because you don't want to be eliminated from a job or not get hired for a certain position because they may think that you're going to be ghetto or you not going to be a good fit or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's why I say I can't really hate on them because it's like, yo, here even today in 2022, I still do it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like I don't go
Yeah,
as far as some
we're
other
taught
people do,
to.
like with the females with, changing my hair, making it all
Mhm,
straight and all that. Like, no, I'm gonna wear my hair how I want to. You know what I mean? But I
mhm.
see why they did it. And I personally can't think of any other way for them to do things differently because you don't control nothing, you don't run nothing, you don't make the rules, you don't control what punishment you get if you don't follow the rules. So it's like I think the only thing that I kind of wish that they would have did differently, maybe if they would have did a better job of documenting or like describing why they did what they did instead of us having to kind of put the pieces together as to why they did it. I kind of wish that they would have like put it more in writing, like, hey, you know what? We felt like we had to do this because of X, Y, and Z. Because I really don't think I would have put those pieces together if it wasn't for someone like Trustorian, like showing the transition over time, showing the pictures, showing the newspaper articles of like, hey, like look at this, look at that, and like bringing it together so that you kind of get it and it clicks in your head as to like, oh shoot, like that's why they were doing that. Like, dang, like, yo, we still doing that today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so the way that I look at it is that you had other African people in other countries that were pretty much um, disguising things in Catholicism or disguising traditions and customs in secrecy, and then you have and Asar, you made a good point. You said our ancestors at the time were pretty much like children. You're right, and the adults were not very adultish to a sense because they were degraded to children. Um, Overall, if I'm understanding the way you're saying that correctly, but I just think that like lessons, like life lessons, culture and tradition, those are things that you can't really rape anyone of, right? Because there's
Hmm.
going to be something that you're going to do that's not in master's face that would be life lessons. We were taught to survive, survive, survive. Well, our ancestors were taught to survive, survive, survive. So much so that bled over the next 100 or something years, 100 and something. Think about it. So once we got, like the last ship docked, right? And everybody's in slavery, and then Reconstruction comes on, and we're past that, and you're free. You flee into the North. People in the South still going through a battle that takes a whole turn. Then we get into this Jim Crow South, because it's not like that in the North, but it's still racism in the North. Then you get past Jim Crow, then you start getting into these different stages of the civil rights, going all the way up into the 60s, like that whole era, like all the way up into really we got to go beyond Rodney King first to
Hmm.
say that we were seriously in survival mode for like 100 and some plus years. I mean, really before that. So since we came here, we've been in survival mode with these people. Even though we were granted freedoms and we began to get a little leeway here and there, you still had survival mode. We were being taught that instead of some things about who we are and how we identify and passing down those stories that went places. You know what I mean? Even when I look at like the primary sources from like the slavery conversations that have been documented from people who went through that whole thing, and they tell us where they
Yeah, like
come
the
from.
slave narratives where people
All
were
the slave
interviewed.
narrative. Right. So like, I got slave narrative over here. So when I read that and I went through and I'm looking at how those conversations goes, no matter how they were documented, because remember they're interviewing these people and they're writing it the way that they're speaking it, and they're giving us these narratives for a reason to tell us how they identified and made it through. When I look at those things, or when I go online and look up the manifestos and things of that nature and how they were other people were interviewed as well. We hear about Africa, but we don't get anything beyond that from that, because it's like my parents told me that I was from some place in Africa and we were this, that, and the third, and then it stops.
Mhm.
Like we literally had it was like everything was turned on until we got on the ship. As soon as we got on the ship, all the shit was turned off. I just find that hard for us to. I find it hard to believe, for one. And I do see where you say you agree and then don't agree, because I'm this. I'm trying to push the needle to say that our ancestors did a poor job, but they did a great job, because they did a poor job of holding on to the things that help us be able to see who we are. But they did a great job at helping us just to survive and get to where we are today.
I don't think that's 100% their fault though, Sean. And the only reason why I say that is because, like, look, when you like really go back and look at what they were going up against, I can see why things would fall apart. And even like when we start coming into things more recently, coming up to 2022, you see why things fall apart. Like you have, so far as back then, for them, it would have been way worse because you're dealing with terrorism and you're dealing with discrimination and possible death. And then you can't run nothing, you can't do nothing. Like at any moment, you could lose your home, you could lose your farmland. You know what I mean? Like if it was during slavery time, you could easily get put back in slavery. Like I could see why you may have to watch what you say, watch what you do, and how certain laws kind of were put into place too to kind of hamper whatever progress that you made. And even when we start coming into more recently, when we started having a lot of these activist groups, whether it was a lot of the pro-black or black power movements that we had in the 60s and 70s, I mean, look at what the government did in regards to those groups. They had surveillance on them, they were infiltrating the movements, they were causing a lot of division, they were uh, pushing a lot of propaganda to try to get people to leave those organizations. I mean, I can see, it seems like every time we try to do something that's positive, and even when we start making some kind of progress, like it's like something keeps happening or somebody does something that kind of just pulls us back down. I'm not saying that we can't take no responsibility for
Yeah,
some of the
well,
things that
we
were done,
fled. We
but
had
I think we
people.
have to keep that in perspective and keep that in context when we have all of these different adversities against us. Even look at 2022, we got all these different identity groups splitting us apart. We got all these different religious groups splitting us apart. You know what I mean? We're surrounded by a heavily propagandist country that like forces capitalism down our throat. So everybody's on this I get money um mode. Fuck everything else, I'm trying to get the bag mode. So I can see how that type of mentality could stifle any type of positive advancement or any even progress that we may have been making or in the process of making. How it either just doesn't go any further or it just fizzles out, and then maybe in a couple more years another movement will pop up, but it'll always be that adversity. And I'm not gonna assume or pretend like I know what would be the solution to that or what would be the best way to combat that. But I think that's just something that we definitely got to recognize as an issue.
All right, so when we look back at slavery, what transpired in slavery is that you had those that stayed and those that ran. No matter when it was, you had, and if they knew where to go or did not know where to go, they knew they needed to run north. So the wiser that they got, and the more they identified with trying to get north, as Canada was a safe haven, no matter what time it is, they just knew north was the answer to a lot of their questions. You had people that do that, but in their running, even those that made it across the border, they went across that what is it, Lake Michigan, and they sailed to Canada. Even them, I'm saying this. I'm looking at this from that perspective. Per runaway that wasn't caught, that did survive, that did make it to where they are, that person had to be taught something in order for them to get to where they got. I'm saying those people who were successful at fleeing and made it back to the US when times got a little bit better and things transpire, because a lot of those Canadian, I mean, when they got to Canada, they end up right back in New York some dang on well.
Hmm.
Um over time because of those routes, how they were just basically doing stuff. They were just fleeing from that. So I'm saying, even with runaways, even with people migrating, even with people surviving, right? Even in all of that, I get all of that, because at the end of the day, it's called surviving for those who just dealt with the circumstances long enough for them to see the light of day. Um, you still don't lose your identity in that process. And I think ultimately was our surviving to the degree of us losing who we are, so much so that we just said the hell with passing down anything that would actually make sense to our people, and let's just survive was the only thing that mattered. I just find that the difficult part for me, because I'm saying this because you had other people who didn't lose certain things even when they came here from Europe, and they were, you know what I mean, they were foreign to this country, but they still had it better than us, and they were in the dumps. For instance, there's a before downtown Nashville was remodeled into what it is today, and back in the earliest onset of Nashville's upbringing, there was something called the Black Bottom. It was a place where the lower class whites and the blacks lived cohesively, right? So they were classed to this what they call Black Bottom. Those people came to the Americas and they were able to hold on to something, but they were ridiculed to the degree that black people were, just to be honest. Whereas the black people that lived in the Black Bottom, they were ex-slaves, some ex-slaves, and just people trying to just really get through. We had nothing, but they had to have something because they had some people that had survived a very strange situation. Because you got to remember, during that whole Civil War thing, Nashville is one of the areas where the North and the South is gang banging on each other, all the way down to Chattanooga. So, and through and there's plenty of Indian territory here and mounds that they actually ran through here too. So what I'm saying is, how is it that these poor ass white people who came here from another country to seek a better opportunity was able to, and some of them was, condemned to slavery. Not all of them had their own mindset and things like that, and they were really misconstrued through their circumstances. How is it that things could pass through easily for them and Indians and everybody else in this world, but us and our experience, we can't seem to get it together, and we still trying to just find the square piece of the puzzle on the left side so that we can move forward to get toward the middle.
Hmm.
I said a lot.
Yeah. Ah, you on point. I don't know. I think there might be some parts of maybe the history or the politics of kind of what went on that we might be missing to kind of, I guess, make sense of it. Like when it comes to like the Native Americans, like they have like their own flipping land, they have their own
Mm-hmm.
jurisdiction, despite how poor they are.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean, well, let me rephrase that. Well, I guess, yeah, they are for the most part poor. It's just certain people within the tribe that have the casinos and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But like they were able to secure that agreement. you know I think our situation was a little bit different, where it was more like we kind of had to like negotiate to a degree. And then I think we had a lot of confusion within the black community as to like what folks wanted to do. True story, and he's done a few videos, going over that, about how, some black people wanted to go back to Africa. Some black people, wanted to stay here in America because pick a reason. They family buried here. They trying to find the rest of their darn family because they just got out of slavery. You know what I mean? Or they feel like, dang, I don't fought in 2 wars.
Mhm.
Like, why the heck would I go back to Africa? Where I don't fought for this country, like I want what's due to me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think at that time they would have been given, black people, the whole what is it, 40 acres in the mule thing. Or there
Yeah,
was
that
the
was that was
promise
a
of that. Not
yeah, that
necessarily
was a
saying
hijack.
everybody got it, but some
Yeah, that
people
was a
probably wanted to
hijack,
stay for
man.
that too as well. Like, why would I want to go to Africa,
But
even
one
though, yeah,
person
that's where
got
my
40
ancestors are
acres in the
from, but I'm
mule
going
though.
over there with nothing versus staying
Yeah.
here in America where there's the probability. Well, back then they probably would have thought that, oh, I'm finna get this 40 acres in a mule. I'm gonna have my own land. I'd rather stay here. That's probably the way that some people probably would have been thinking back during that time. And I think that that's still kind of like the same issue today. You know what I mean? Um, you got some black people that want to go to Africa, some that want to stay because, like, at this point we're generations later, so a lot of our people are buried in cemeteries across the way. That is a lot of money to be digging people up and transporting them all the way to Africa, and then where you gonna put them? You gotta have the money, and it's like, ugh. I can see how that could be a frustration as well. And then two, the same
I
issue
don't
that
think
we
we was
have
ever
then today.
serious about
Some black
going
people
back
don't
to
want to
Africa
go
though.
because, yo, I don't fought in the Civil War. I don't fought in World War One, two, and this war. I'm finna get what's owed to me. You know what I mean? Oh, like we deserve reparations. Like, oh, I'm gonna stay here so I can guarantee that I get that reparations. Because if I go to Africa, I'm not gonna get that. Blah blah blah. I feel like there's a lot of different. I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of different, I guess you could say, nuances to why we do what we do or why we don't do what we do.
Hmm. You said something about 40 acres in the mule, right?
Yeah, I know a lot of everybody didn't get it, and then the ones that did get it, they ended up taking it away from them anyways. But I'm
Yeah,
just
so
saying, back then, before they
one
actually gave
person
out
got
the
his
land,
though.
some people probably thought that they were
Can't
going to
even
get
see
that.
this. You can't even see that. This is a primary source of somebody who actually got their 40 acres, but it's too blurry. It's right here. One person, man. We had one person get their 40 acres. One. It's a shame. But nah, when I did this back in 2018, this presentation right here on 40 acres and a mule, and in that whole study of things, it it ain't looking too good right here, but it was working.
I see.
Um
Is this a presentation that you're working on now, or one that you've done in the past? I might
this
have missed.
2018 in the past. It's
Oh, okay. I
old.
don't think I was subscribed to you back then. I probably missed it.
Nah, this old. This 3 years old. This is a long boy. That boy singing in his sleep. It's more too old, but I had to make sure to add the primaries in here because it was important. But when I this is what I mean. Like when I like this picture right here, right? There's some history in this image. Look at
Mm-hmm.
the kids. Look at the elderly and the kids. They're
What's the year on the
separated,
image?
huh?
Do you know
This
the
this
year on the
image
image?
is this image is like hold up, let me go back because it's did I put it in here?
It definitely seemed like it probably would have been during
18
slavery if
in
they
the
ain't wearing.
1860s is in the 1860s.
Oh,
Yeah.
so right
Because
around
this
the
is what
time.
what I just showed you right here is this is what it is this is a contraband camp. So this image is one of the many images from a contraband camp. So if for people who don't know what a contraband camp is, this is what let me wide it. All right, so this is what a contraband camp is. It was nicknamed that for blacks who had been housed in these areas where the North had confiscated land. Blacks were considered contraband, and the camps had been considered the land. The grand part was established because after the militia took over, they burned down the buildings or homes in the area, and the blacks went in and took over, establishing housing in those areas. So that's why it looked like this, is because when the North came down, they wrecked shop and black people went right here. That's a story in there that we need to know more about. So it continues. It says, as the number of former slaves grew to large to be housed in the fort, they began to build housing from the ruins of Hampton left by the Confederates. They called their new settlement the Grand Contraband Camp, which they nicknamed Slab Town. By the end of the war in April 1865, less than 4 years later, an estimated 10,000 slaves had applied to gain contraband status, and many lived nearby. The contraband slaves of the Virginia Peninsula are credited with establishing the United States' first self-contained African-American community, where they quickly created schools, churches, businesses, and other social organizations. This is why I said this is significant here. So I'm saying that to say, right, going back to arguing from the other side, like what happened to our identity. These people that created these contraband camps in Virginia and established the town and did their businesses, created their businesses and all of that, they have some type, because they on that coast, they have some type of story that has not been told or uncovered to us that we don't know. 1865 is not 4,000 years ago where we have found stories from 4,000, 3,000, 2,000 years ago. We're talking less than 200 years ago. These people have a story. All of it, and they just told you that these people were slaves. There's something in there, and I haven't went back, and this is part of my problem. I think this, I'm blaming myself for this and not nobody else. I should have did more on just the militia. On the contraband problems, because that in itself gives credence to us knowing more. Like, look, like, you know what I mean? Like, look at this. Look at these black people. Look how these black people rocked in the 1860s.
Yeah, I see.
Cooped up. They look like Mexicans.
Like they finna go to the western frontier.
Come on, man. Oregon Trail. You ever played that game? You ever seen Oregon Trail on the computer? It's a real old game. I played that joint
I
about.
can't remember much about it, but I have heard of it before.
Yeah. But Oregon Trail, this is what Oregon Trail was all about. It was the wackiest computer. It was like the first computer game ever made. It was whack. But it was, I guess it was entertaining for us as children because it's when things came out. But that's what I mean by that story. And I should have got back to this and did more on this because this contraband story was significant to me and it was very interesting. That's why I did this whole 40 acres and a mule thing. And then it says the solution for the contraband was an agreement was reached to allow the contraband blacks an opportunity to resettle on the land and reestablish homes in the area. The Northern militia would then issue out 2 acres of land per family to be used at their discretion. Think about that. You got 10,000 slaves. They took over this contraband area where they called it Slab Town. What could come of that? All right, CK. What I'm saying here is this. That's really Black Wall Street for a slave. It was the first of its kind. It was the first African American community in this country. I'm about to say continent. In this country. And many people haven't heard of this. I knew nothing of it. And guess what? This all got something to do with coming back to later on. Who? When you go a little bit more south, the Gullah Blacks. Because a similar situation happened in the Sea Islands with the Gullah, where the militia ran through there, tore down the lands. Black people raided the lands. They ran the white people out of the area. And what happened when the stuff was over? Them white people returned back to them lands, running the black people out of the area.
Hmm. Sounds like something would definitely happen.
Hmm. So yeah, this 40 acres and a mule thing, man. It touched on a lot. Um, how many damn slides? Okay.
Yeah, I think my granddad. I don't know if it was my granddad or my grandmom on my mom's side of the family. Um, my mom used to stay at my grandma's land. I'm assuming that was her land. And I think one of my aunties had like I guess repurposed the land or whatever and put like a trailer out there. And I think they ended up selling part of the darn land, but like they were gonna split it up. But like at this point, I'm like, yo, it's so many of us. Like how? Like I was just like, dang, I mean at the time I would have been too young to like buy or do anything. I probably would have still been a kid at the time. But I was just like, hey, I didn't want us to sell the land because I'm just like, yo, like it was ours.
Hmm.
So I don't know what they ended up doing with it. Like I know a portion of it, my auntie ended up putting like a trailer out there, but eventually, she'll end up, getting old and passing away too. So I just hope that she got contingencies in place to like pass it on to somebody. And like my granddad, and he passed away too a few years back. So I don't know what they did with his land. I have no idea.
Hmm.
Like I'm not in the midst of those conversations. But as long as we keep it in, I feel like that kind of stuff, you got to try to keep it in the family. But I can see why it ends up becoming more of a hassle than it is to just sell it because there's so many different family members at this point because kids don't have kids. So it's like, who get it? And
Hmm.
then there's the cost factor. Who finna do the property taxes? Who finna pay it? You know, a lot of the people probably ain't even old enough to work even to pay it. And then the older folks, they're probably retired. So it's like, ugh. I think that that's where, like those mutual aid societies probably would come in. We would probably need to come up with some kind of organization that like handled stuff like that when, the family don't know what to do with such and such, but you still want to keep the land, with at least black people that's from that
Hmm.
area.
Yeah. That was difficult. We really didn't know what to do with land. I mean, well, that's a lie. Let me take that back. I think we knew more what to do in our early ignorance here in America than we do today. Because today we just don't know what the hell to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the schools don't really teach us how to handle that kind of stuff. And then if your parents don't know and they're too busy working 40 plus hours a week to learn to teach you, what I mean? And by the time you get old enough to try to start learning stuff on your own, you too busy trying to get a job so you can get your own place, rent an apartment or something like that, or go to college or whatever. So, like, part of it's the educational system's fault, and part of it is, I guess the parents to a degree.
Yeah, so let's get there because it's gonna get back to my point. So as a parent, right, we're supposed to be doing two things, right? Well, as a parent, and our kids go to school, we're supposed to be giving them they're supposed to be getting two educations, one from the public school and then one from the home.
Hmm.
So I'm saying that to say, where the hell was our second education during turmoil? Like we had to be getting some time. Like I'm not finna sit here and be under the impression that we just
Well,
lost that
I
because it
think
was
I
instilled
understand
in us.
why though. I understand why we probably stopped getting that second education. When you start looking at history and seeing, okay, like what was going on? Okay, boom. After slavery, they freed all the slaves and all that. They had those laws in place, the vagrancy laws. Of course, people ain't got no dang job. They just got freed.
Hmm.
So a lot of black people ended up in the darn chain gangs. You know what I mean? uh during the 60s and 80s and whatnot, we had the whole crack epidemic. You know what I mean? So it just
And
seems
that was a
like,
big detriment.
yeah, and then of course, like how our society is set up is very capitalistic. So if the cost of living keeps going up, how much you're paying in rent, how much you're paying for food, how much you're paying for everything keeps going up, but how much you get paid at your job stays the same. People feel like they have to pick up a second job, or they have to pick up more hours, or maybe they work a job where that's just how the job is. You always are working all this crazy amount of overtime because they
Mm-hmm.
want to squeeze as much labor out of you as possible while they reap the profits, and you know, get nothing, or really just a few extra dollars on your check or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
if our parents are doing all of that work, and when would they have time to teach the kid? So that means that they're leaving the kid with grandma or one of the older elderly individuals that may not have that education. So I can see why something like that would happen, where there was some kind of something that happened that broke the cycle of whatever education that we were getting at home from our parents, because our parents spent most of their time at work. And I can
Mm-hmm.
even speak for myself. Like, yo, like a lot of the jobs I had in my earlier adult years, like, yo, I felt like I was at work more than I was at home. I was just coming home to sleep for a few hours
Mm-hmm.
just to go back to work. And just imagine if I had kids. Like, that is honestly partially why I never decided to have kids. Because I'm like, yo, like, I don't want them to go through what I went through as a kid, where my dad was just always at work. But he still made time to teach me some stuff. He still made time to spend time with me and be involved in the things that I was doing in school and whatnot. But like, this dude was getting like no sleep. I don't know how he did that. Like, I just like, when do you sleep, Dad? Like, I never see you go to sleep. Like, nah. I would never want to put, my kid through that, or endanger my health like that, to where you're just getting no sleep and you start having all these health problems, or you fall asleep at the wheel and now your kids are orphans. So I could see how all these different outside factors could play a role into how things turn out.
Yeah. Um, I feel you on that. I brought this up right here, the Colored American magazine. Um, two reasons. One, because it's like I said, it's the Women's Month. But and I already did a post on Facebook, but I just also wanted to incorporate this because when just the Negro Truth. So I want to make sure that I at least incorporate something that I found that was amazing to me in times, especially had to deal with women.
Hmm.
And I just want to get into something. So this is the Colored American magazine. It's an illustrated monthly devoted to literature, science, music, art, religion, facts, fiction, and traditions of the Negro rage. Now, I said I brought this up for a reason because my whole argument was about us. How did we lose anything? Where is it going? Who got it? Why is it important? All of these things. Now, this image is out, of course, out of the Library of Congress. As you can see, this is the second copy. This is from 1901 of February. It's worth 15 cents, right? So let me just give you a wiki version of this, uh, of this magazine. Of course, you know that if we go to Library of Congress, we can pull the primaries and get into it.
Hmm.
But anyway, the Color magazine was the first American monthly publication that covered African American culture, which is key. Okay, and I'm gonna get back to why I say it's key. The magazine ran from May 1900 to November 1909. It had a 9-year span. It was initially published out of Boston by the Colored Cooperative Publishing Company, which is if you're following me in this conversation and you're listening to my voice, You should be very interested to find out who's the owner of this, what was the motivation behind it. That's another history lesson right there if you're unfamiliar with Colored Cooperative Publishing Company. We're doing like it's a slick learning lesson in this conversation, and I hope people are catching it. But anyway, from 1904 forward, by Moore Publishing Company and Printing Company of New York, Pauline Hopkins. This lady, she's the co. She's important, right? Pauline, its most prolific writer from the beginning, sat on the board as a shareholder, was an editor from 1902 to 1904, though her name was not on the masthead until 1903. Hopkins was a journalist, playwright, historian, and literary. This is key. These other things are important, yes, but this is key. In 1904, Booker T. Washington and the hostile takeover purchased the magazine and replaced Hopkins with Fred Randolph Moore as editor. Hostile takeover. Now, the magazine was founded by Walter Wallace, Jesse Watkins, Harper Fortune, Walter Alexander Johnson. The holding company was named the Colored Cooperative Publishing Company. Around 1902, the magazine operated from a headquarters in Boston Park Square, adjacent from the Boston Commons. In May 1903, William Dupree and Jesse Watkins purchased the magazine from the Colored Cooperative Publishing Company and renamed the holding company the Colored American Publishing Company. Their aim was to redeem the magazine financially and to secure its location in Boston with Hopkins an editor. There's some people in here that we might need to know more about. Now, post 1996 finding related to the Pauline Hopkins was this. John C. Freund, was born 1848 to 1924, London born in Oxford, educated, the co-founder of the influential editor to New York magazines. The music trades and Musical America became an outside investor of the magazine in 1903. Recently, beginning around 1996, after the rediscovery of 20 letters in the Pauline Hopkins collection. Where's this? Of course, you know I'm going to know this because Fisk University is in Nashville. So, the Pauline Hopkins collection at Fisk University Library, scholars show at Hopkins since that Freund had conspired Booker T to replace her as editor to quell her outspoken on racial matters, which in that era was a prevailing taboo in the minds of many whites. Freund, a white man, and Washington, an African American man, prevailed against Hopkins and African American woman. The letters revealed that Hopkins, a well-articulated and influential editor, was a victim of sexism and nuanced racism that was masked by the enlisted cooperation of Booker T. Washington. Freund apparently believed, and perhaps Washington believed, that directness about race issues and racial activism by the magazine would do more harm than good. It would generate greater racial discord in the society, harm the economic viability of the magazine, drive away white readership, marginalize the potential for the magazine to win support of whites who otherwise harbored cynical views toward racial equality. Yeah.
Okay.
Freund felt that the goal of the magazine was to first record the work, right? The work the colored people are doing. Second, to make whites acquainted with it. Freund opposed writers who felt that advancing bravely required historic retrospection. In other instances, Freund had
Do you
rallied
think that
support. Go ahead.
my mistake? I was going to say, do you think that they may have been influenced a little bit by W.D. Du Bois? A little bit?
I don't
Like, even
know.
though I don't see his name being mentioned, I see Booker, but
Right. It just would take a little bit more digging. But Freund rallied support from the African Americans. They seceded and, they patronized those who attended. They had success, and which included financial support, published critical acclaim to the People's Chorus, directed by Emma Azalea Hackley. I don't know if we got a picture. There she go, white woman. The upshot was that Hopkins believed, as documented in the letters, that Freund's altruistic gestures toward helping her in the magazine were actually a ploy to oust her and take control of the magazine's political content. There are differing views on Freud and Washington's motives and differing views who led charge, but there is little debate on how Hopkins perceived it. So this is a very interesting tale regarding the 9 years of this magazine, especially with the players involved in it, as Booker T was very influential. As you can see here in Boston Square, there's a picture of the magazine Cohere, and it's labeled at the top. It's labeled there. The Colored American Magazine, the Colored Cooperative Publishing Company. And below that is the Franklin Savings Bank, which is, I do believe, a black-owned bank. Let me substantiate that. I think everything in that building was black-owned. Would I say the Franklin Savings Bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Franklin Savings Bank. And this is in the 1900s. Like, these two probably aren't operational today.
Right.
Here in my county, it was predominantly a black town, especially after
They didn't
the
change the
building,
name, but of course.
but being used for anything. They're just there. It's like the black people that did the important work, like they end up passing away, and there's no one, I guess, to kind of continue the reins or whatnot. Or maybe some other stuff happened to where they ended up losing the building,
Mm-hmm.
and we just don't know about it because we're not familiar with the history on it. Oh, still in existence, but it's owned by black people though.
Mm.
Conversation.
yeah, yeah,
Like
we
it
have to
could have been
take.
started by
We have to
black
do some
people, was
digging.
owned by black people, but they could have sold that
Yeah.
joint off, and it's not owned by black people anymore.
I
But
mean,
what some
this
companies
is
will do
interesting
is they'll
though.
still have a black person as like the face of the company.
You know it
Yikes.
ain't no more. Look,
Yeah.
this is new. This is new.
And the white folks
But it
come
goes
in with the
back though.
check.
This is interesting. I have to dig into that a little bit more, but yeah. So I brought that up to say, even in the even in the gist of everything that's actually going on, man, it's just still a lot to learn from our history. What did I do? Yeah, Franklin said, yeah, it's gonna be black on. It's gonna be color. You
Mm-hmm.
might have they gonna give it that, but I wanted to try to lace y'all up for that because pretty much it is Women's Month, and that's another little slick contribution about Pauline Hopkins. Slide on in there for you. But like I said, we can get more primaries into that. That this could be a bigger story or a bigger conversation or bill to actually have on or a teaching moment
Mm-hmm.
to deal with that, because this could answer some questions that we may have, like what actually transpired between her and Booker T and all of that. I just don't want to deal with this guy, Henry Louis Gates, for obvious reasons. But there's some source material in here that could be very useful to us. And even just going to Fisk, I necessarily don't have to go. I can get Taka, because he's a professor at Fisk University. I can get him involved in that library stuff regarding her. I mean, if he got the time to pull that for review, we could get like the primaries in our hands on that. But yeah, I think her story is interesting too. There you go. See, Boston ain't just about the Patriots or New Edition. They got some history.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to do, I think it was like a year or so ago for Black History Month for MBK. I wanted to do uh,
What up,
um
Ogun?
I wanted, oh, going on the path.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. In the chat.
oh, hey, I'll go. I wanted to do a presentation on this black lady called dang it, I forgot her name. Something Shaw. I don't know why I can't remember her first
Martha
name.
Shaw.
No, I don't think so. I can't remember. I can't remember her first name, but I think her last name was Shaw. And she was based right here in Marion County, Florida. And she had a printing press. I think she was the first black person, let alone black woman, to have a printing press here in Marion County, Florida. And like I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't find like nothing on this chick except for in this one book that this one black guy did. His last name I think is Pinkney or Pickney.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that book is a reference book, so you can't take it from the Durham Library, and it only exists at the Durham Library, one copy and one copy at the college, the community college here. Well, it's not a community college anymore. At the college here in town. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess if anybody was lucky enough back then when it was printed to have an extra copy of it, then they would have one too. It talks about her a little bit in there, but I
Mm-hmm.
think I still might. I might like I ended up going to the library like a month or so ago, and I
Mm-hmm.
just did a live stream and I just kind of flipped through the pages. You know what I mean? So I might go back and do something on that.
We might be wrong on that bank.
What on the Black Bank?
Yeah, we might be wrong on that bank.
You saying it is black owned? They got white CEOs?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm in that PDF.
Oh, okay.
It's 94 pages. Well, but I'm thinking that this is taking me in a different direction too, though, because
Ogun said, Ogun said Henry Louis Gates is a op.
he the op, yeah, but he's the op. He sure is, man. I mean, that dude, man,
I
he'll
don't know.
piss
I'm
me
not
off.
really familiar with him like that. I've read through like part of one of his books, but I know he be saying
He
some
did
very
some,
reckless stuff.
yeah, but he did some favorable research to not muddy the water on white people. Like he really did that. Like, you know what I
What you
mean?
mean?
He has a history doing that. So instead of telling the whole truth, he tried to smooth it over. He's trying to please them.
Also, instead of saying exactly kind of what happened historically, he kind of
Yeah.
tweaked certain
Mm-hmm.
details, I guess, to make it probably not
Mm-hmm.
seem as bad as it actually was.
Yeah, this dude crazy.
Yeah, that's a problem. Like it starts to call into question your credibility when you can't at least minimum, keep everything in context and tell it like it is. Like history is history. You may not like it, may hurt your feelings, but it is what it is.
This mug got me looking. Franklin Savings Bank. 1902. HistoricNewEngland.org. I told him I'm gonna keep digging. I'm on that historic site
All
trying to
right.
find it. Yeah. I think they own this bank. They probably blackfaced it though. Hmm. They blackfaced it. But I think
Hmm.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they were actually there was some mission well not missionaries, abolitionists in Boston that played a key role in getting people out of where they was at. Man, they got coins. Listen, they got coins of these ugly people.
Of who? You talking about white folks?
Yeah, they got commemorative coins for these people. I can't make this up. Listen, it's American Philosophical Society Museum. In that museum, they got metal commemorative coins. I'm looking at these jokers. I'm doing too much digging. Let me stop. Shoot. That's why I don't be trying to look at stuff. Cause I be going too far. Yeah, he got a whole bunch of primaries. That sucker.
Um,
What up, Rock City? Go ahead, CK.
yeah, I was gonna say that. But pretty much as I was listening to your live stream earlier
Mm-hmm.
from earlier today, I didn't listen to it live. I had to catch the replay. It kind of gave me like I guess some ideas for some stuff that I was thinking about writing. Um, I don't know, like basically, I think that at some point in time, like somebody kind of needs to point out, like write some type of article or something like that on some of these things that kind of take place in the black community that don't really get a whole lot of I guess you could say attention or like explanation as to like why this is happening, like why is this going on, why did this take place. And I think one of them is like I mentioned earlier, um with some of the things that True Story went over on New Black Knowledge about how black people were changing their hair, changing their accent, changing their names, to try to either fit in with being white or trying to be something else. I mean, so
Mm-hmm.
they won't get that discrimination. I mean, I think that that's really important, and I think it kind of plays into like the stuff that you were talking about, and then what I'm thinking about writing about here soon. Um, I kind of wanted to dive into how some of like the white supremacist ideology kind of gets infiltrated into the black community, because
Mm-hmm.
I ain't never heard black people talk about certain things or like in a positive way now, like how I have for the past couple of years. I'm just like, yo, like since when is black people pushing white supremacy talking points? Like what is going on here? And it's like ever since, Trump kind of ran for office, like I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed that. Like I don't know if it's just becoming more prevalent because social media is becoming even more
Mm.
prevalent, even when it was, 10 years ago or whatever. And maybe it was
Mm-hmm.
just always there and I just didn't notice it, or it actually is a uptick in that type of activity. So I kind of wanted to dig into that. Like, yo, how is this stuff getting into the community? Like, why are we buying into this? Why are we pushing this stuff as fact? So when I was talking to my buddy Adrian,
Mm-hmm.
Adrian was like, hey, CK, you should probably read this book called Black Skin White Math by Franz Fanon. He said he goes into that kind of stuff, like why black people were trying to do certain things to fit in and whatnot. So I've been going through that and like taking notes from that. And then like how I sent you before another book that I'm gonna probably read next that kind of goes into like black conservatives
Mm-hmm.
and how they've like hurt the black community more than they've helped the black community. And I think a lot of that stuff kind of ties into trying to explain like how this stuff gets into the community. And a part of me starts to wonder, based upon what you were saying this morning, is us as black people, is us as black people leaning more towards that right wing political faction? Is that us trying to fit in with white people or trying to be like them so that we'll be accepted or
Mm-hmm.
we won't be fucked with or something like that? Like so a part of me makes me wonder that if that's the case.
I think that's the case in all instances. Even to this day we still fight for white acceptance, even with the power that we well not power, but even with the
Influence.
freedoms. The yeah, uh, we still tend to bind ourselves to white acceptance. We're fixated on that acceptance. We're trying to buy into this idea of that they actually care. Um, not to switch the gears on you, but do you
Hmm.
think this lady is a black or a white woman?
She looks Caucasian,
What about the chat?
but she could
Anybody in the
be
chat
she could be
that this is a
mixed.
think this is a black woman or a white woman?
Because I ain't gonna lie, I have aunties that look damn near straight up white.
You know, we was having a conversation earlier, and I was telling you about my grandmother, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and
And
let
they
the
be
cat out the
lying. Oh, we
bag.
got Indian in our family. Did the
Right.
damn
So I'm gonna
DNA
give you a
test.
I'm gonna give you a better picture because that's a painting. That's the same lady that's in the painting
Which one went on the her?
with the glasses. right here. So she would be here, she would
Yeah, she
be
seems
here,
mixed.
and she would be looking here. All right. So that's her. Now, why the hell am I showing y'all this? Because if you, based on what I just told y'all before, right? With
She asked
with
somebody
the
to draw
whole,
her like that.
yeah, with the whole magazine. No, no, no. But look where she's born in, Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
She died in Detroit. She was married. This is her spouse, Edward Henry Hackley. This lady, y'all, what does this have to do with what I was saying? Is what we just read earlier about the magazine company. Remember, we was talking about the magazine company. Her name came up, right? So because I'm always digging for people, she was a concert soprano, newspaper editor, teacher, and political activist. Remember,
Hmm.
in the article, it talked about politics and political activism, but also an editor. This is one of the people, right? She organized folk song festivals in African American churches and schools, studied music for years, including in Paris under opera singer Jean de Ritz. She was a music teacher who taught Roland Hayes, Marian Anderson, and R, whoever these people are, right? These black people, look at them.
Yeah.
She founded the Vocal Normal Institute of Chicago. She co founded both the Imperial Order of Libyans and the Colored Women's League. Ding, 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 ding. Remember, is History Month, Women's History Month. You can look that up. Colored Women's League. She was a newspaper editor in the women's section of the Colorado Statesman. So here we go. We got something else to look at. She published the Colored Girl Beautiful and How to on Becoming an Accomplished and Refined African American Lady. Talks about her early life here, who she was born to, later on when she would move. She literally, look, I'm in Laverne. That's literally like 15 minutes from me, Murfreesboro, where she was born. But look, in school she was threatened by the KKK
Hmm.
and other hostile groups during the evening singing lessons. Concerned for the safety of the family, the Smiths moved to Detroit in 1870. Her father was a blacksmith. Corilla was a teacher. Her mother. But moving on in her career, she received a bachelor's in Denver School of Music. She was the first African American graduate. So there goes some history there. Trained in the Bel Cante vocal style, she was a concert soprano while receiving her education. She was an assistant director of a large choir in Denver and was the choir director at a church. She promoted racial pride through music. She defined herself as a racial musical missionary. She established the Colorado branch of the Colored Women's League, which is out of DC. You see it right there.
Yeah.
And she was an editor for the Statesman Exponent. Like I said, this is when I get to reading this stuff, you get to tracing. She giving up the Negro spirituals and so on. But look at her death, though. She collapsed on stage while performing in San Diego in 1921 and was brought back to Detroit. That's crazy. She sung her heart out. But she
Yeah,
was
she did what she
instrumental in a
loved.
lot of things. Yeah, she did what she loved. And look, you said something about W.E.B. Du Bois, right?
Yeah.
She was described as one of W.E.B. Du Bois' talented 10th by Louis Brevard, her biographer. There you go. You know, because he got that female. I think there's a female talented 10th as well. Yeah, Ogun. That's Murfreesboro is like 25, 30 minutes from Nashville with 20 miles. 20, not 30 minutes, but 20 miles, 25 miles, depending on how fast you're driving. You know what I'm saying? We used to try to get to Murfreesboro in 20 minutes. MTSU. He talking about a little red bone thing up there. He said, that's Big Meech niece. She being mouth. That boy crazy. It ain't never a dull moment. That fool. Ah, that fool said she BMF.
Crazy.
Man, that boy that crazy. He said I would have spazzed though. Yeah, man. But nah, that's a little piece of history that ties into the whole thing. Now remember, we started with like societies, and I started digging into sewing societies. Sewing societies led me to the Colored American magazine. The Colored American magazine uh led me to two women. Pauline Hopkins, who ran it with a bunch of other people, but she wrote crazily, and Emma Azalea Hackley, a second black woman who was an editor and was very political, and that's what uncovered that. So I'm gonna put them in the chat for people that's just really interested in going behind and picking up the pieces to that and just looking into the sources to see if they actually wanted to get a little bit more involved into those uh into that information, because that's part of your history. And I know a lot of people may not have known that, or there may be some other intel that we can uncover, which that's the good part for me, is I like digging a little bit behind those people and finding out little intricate things that could be good informative uh Facebook posts or bills later on regarding these people's lives.
Hmm.
I'm 3 women in for the month. I'm feeling
I
good.
know. I need to catch up. Yeah, man. I mean, I planned to do. I mean, I at least started the
Mhm,
presentations for that I was gonna do for Black Florida.
mhm.
It was a book I bought a couple of years back that Rob Bourne was like, when we gonna get a build on this book?
Yeah, that's real
I
though. He
think he
telling the
ended up
truth.
doing something on it at one point in time, probably on a Clubhouse. But I at least started it, so I could probably find something in there to probably do a couple things for at least Women's History Month and whatnot. But I did finish another presentation. It's more of like, I mean, I sent it to you already in the back,
Yeah, I got
but
it.
yeah, I'll wait until you kind of take a look at it. But it's gonna be fire. Like I worked pretty hard on it. It's not the hardest thing I had to do. The burden of
Mhm.
proof video, that joint was hard. That was
Yeah,
nuts. But we'll see how it goes. Like I sent it to a couple people so they can critique it and whatnot, so I can see if I can tighten it up a little bit. But I think it'll be fire. You know, if my teammates, if they don't want to do anything educational, hey, one of us
mm.
got to.
I ain't gonna do this one. I was gonna hit y'all with one more color woman.
You got.
Nah, I was gonna
You
get
gonna
into
save it for next time?
Helen Cook. Helen
From
Cook. Colored Women's League. Remember, we get to the Colored Women's League because of Emma Azalea Hackley. Her affiliation um got me there. That's how I do it. I was just looking around in her career. Since she established that Colorado branch, I was interested in that
hmm
involvement. And it looks like Helen Apol Cook, uh, she's instrumental as well. She was an African American. Now she ain't got a colored picture. Hers is just a black and white photo, and she looked pretty. Let me show y'all. I ain't gonna read it to y'all or nothing like that, but it's just the digging that you do, man. When you get into all of this history stuff, you start unplugging stuff. So
hmm
she's right here. She's part of the Niagara movement as well. But you can look at her right here. It's not a really defined picture of her over to the right, but it gives you a little bit about her. And it's an interesting story behind her as well. You'll see Graminke show up, Charlotte
Close Women
Graminke,
League.
Ida B. Wells. Known people that I don't know if many people know who Miss Cooper is. Miss Four Names, Mary Church Terrell. You know, it's a lot of prominent women going down, and especially right here. You know, so and I think like this is what I said earlier when I talked about how important women were to our forwardness. I call it our forwardness because every revolution in my mind always started with women. And I seriously believe in that. If the women think it, the men will do it for
Mhm.
real. Because men are always trying to please the women and get the women's attention. So that's what I just stand on with that. But these society, once again, this is all spearheaded from, if nobody's paying attention to me, the societies, these organizations, how they're being created, what is being orchestrated and taught in them, what is the link to all of these? Are there similar, how are we benefiting? All of that is always gonna come back to that. So, this is another woman that's instrumental in everything. And she was rich, as you can see. She was wealthy, prominent, community activist. She was the leader of the women's club. Look at them women. Founded and president of the Colored Women's League, which consolidated with another organization in 1896 to become the National Association of Colored Women. Oh, here you go. But some people knew this part.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say some people knew, but then you got to come on. Look, Cook publicly rebuked Susan B. Anthony, who was the
Gotcha.
president of the Women's Suffrage Association. So all of that old, you know what I'm saying? That's a big deal because
Yeah.
that will later come back into. I think that play comes back into effect with how the European or the white women would sneak their presence back into the black women to try to get them to coincide with this whole voting issue stuff down the line. But this is interesting stuff, man. So that's my part on that, man. I gave y'all a little bit of everything that I actually was digging into. But ultimately, you're gonna see it all being linked back to these societies because they play a role. Everything about the upliftment of African American history is gonna be built on the infrastructure of societies and how they maneuver to move people forward. And I'm still gonna argue about where the hell our Africanness got lost at in all these societies. What up,
Mhm.
Mugabe?
Yeah, that's cool. I definitely do need to read more into a lot of more prominent black women.
We gonna
Like
get
even
more answers.
yeah, even when I was
We
growing
so
up,
focused on the
there
men.
wasn't even a strong emphasis on like black women. So like even when I became an adult, somebody would ask you, oh, like, what black woman is your how people say like they have a hero or whatever. Like I didn't have one
Yeah,
because it was never an emphasis on black women and the things that they did or were
Beyonce,
doing. It was always the black men. That's all you would hear
Beyonce.
about.
It ain't Beyonce.
Beyonce.
Cardi B. That's disrespectful, ain't it? We in women's money, we're gonna hear those names come up as figurative leaders in history of women. When it's some of the women that we just basically talked about this evening is more influential.
Hmm.
And most of our children, they really don't know those things. So I hope that when kids go back and watch things like this, that they extract the information that was actually in these conversations that could help them get something out of that, you
Facts.
know, because it all goes back to the point. Like I said, even in my questions about certain things, I know that if I have too many questions, then I need to be doing more research. So when that's why I woke up today, every other day, just digging through society information and trying to put pieces together to try to find uh stuff that I had questions or that I needed answers to, and so I just try to get all of that. He said Megan Niece. I see you throwing something out there. Until I see a Facebook post or you coming on and showing us about Megan Niece, I don't want his. I ain't.
Oh
You
Lord.
you go on the set, you go on the set shoe and get on the panel and talk with Wu Jawu and Emmy Cat, Sanet Emmy Cat. What's up? Why we can't get no shine?
Wait, when did this happen?
Zion all way over there. You just don't know his name over there when he on there like that, because his
Well, he
name
got
will
a
be
different
different.
name. Wait, over
Yeah,
where?
yeah, his name on the set shoot channel.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
I don't be watching that, so.
When he jump on the panel, he be having a different name.
Oh Lord, we have to get
It
Zane to
be
come over here. But I would say, Sean, I think that we probably should encourage more people to like like how Tristoran was trying to convince a lot of people a few years back to do like presentations. And like I like how the way that he kind of like encouraged people to do some type of presentation. Instead
yeah,
of you doing something like how you would do like in a speech class or like in a college course, or like even if you was in high school, like not even nothing that
yeah,
in
something
depth.
fun, short and fun.
Yeah, something short and fun. Like, hey, you know
Mhm.
what? I need y'all to do a 1 or 2 slides. Who this person is, what did they do, why should we
Yeah,
care? Or basically, why
that's
does it
it. Yeah,
matter
three
today? Like,
questions.
how does this
Yeah,
relate to what's going on today?
three
And like, you
research
can do
questions.
that in 1 to 2 slides. You know
You
what I
absolutely
mean?
can.
And I think that stuff like that needs to be like encouraged more, whether it's something, on the black activist side, or whether it's black scientists, anything like that. So people can just get it short and quick. You don't have to get this long, lengthy presentation about somebody that you probably
hmm
barely paying attention to, and it kind of gives you like tidbits, and it can lead into the other stuff, like how you were saying before. And another thing I
Oh
think,
yeah, it's gonna lead.
yeah, another thing that I think should be encouraged as well is for like everybody, especially kids, to have like some type of blog or something, to where they're like writing some of the things that they do down, or even some of like the papers that they may have done like in like school, whether it was high school or college, and put it on there. Because you might
Mhm.
not be as good as some of like other authors, where like how we have a prominent author like Henry Louis Gates writing all these darn books. Like, you might not be that good like that to write a lengthy book like that, but you could at least put something out there to where, like, if you pass away or something like that, somebody somewhere, will come across something that you have done,
Mhm.
you know? And you can also put it on your resume. You could say, "Hey, I was a freelance blogger." So if you got any gaps in your work history, you could just lie and say you were a freelance blogger and you were getting paid and you really weren't. And if they get the question it too much, you just pull up the website. Oh, look, I posted this in 2020. Why not? Why not? But I
Yeah.
think like some of the stuff that you've been doing lately too, Sean, like you should definitely throw it up on your blog. I saw that you haven't putting anything on there in a while.
Nah, it's because I've been writing books and all this other stuff. So that's why I really hadn't been really just, you know, uh worried about that part. I hadn't wrote for that thing in a minute. If I do, it's been ending up on Black Panther's blog site or somebody else's, or I really, to be honest, because everybody been getting in the habit of writing books and stuff like that. So
Hmm. Yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
I just been
Yeah, I
saving
really
stuff like
miss. I miss
I've
like
been saving that stuff for
some of like
like
the
the
African
journal.
presentations y'all were doing on Namasi, and like I haven't done one of those in a minute too. Like I know that Black Panther sometime has like his little interviews here and there, but sometimes I actually miss like the little presentations y'all did, on Africa. It's just stuff I just didn't know, you know.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff coming back, but a lot, I think some of that stuff going in books. So it's just all depends.
You gotta realize black people don't read.
Yeah, I know they don't. That's
I think
why.
it's good to have stuff in multiple formats. Like I think y'all should, yeah, continue doing your books, but just keep in mind, like people either ain't got money or they don't want to waste their money on that. So some people might not buy all the products like that, but they may watch your videos though. Or maybe they can buy some books, but maybe they can't buy all.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think it'll be good for like boom, y'all have your longer version, the whole book, and then maybe like a like about the chapter to the degree, and then you put that in a blog post or something, and then like you could do like a mini video on like that chapter or a section in that chapter or whatever, and then and keep referencing everything back to the book.
yeah. We'll figure it out. I mean, we got a couple things we're working on, so it's all gonna work itself out. But yeah, man, I'm gonna wind it down, and I might pop up with some information tomorrow. But I'm really 4 women in, man.
Yeah, we gotta
I'm
catch
four
up.
women in. Oh, Ogun, I did my thumbnail, bro.
Yeah,
I
it looks
did that, man.
nice.
I've been working on my skills. You know what I'm saying? I ain't there yet. Ogun, by no stretch. I ain't there yet, but I did my thumbnail. I did my thumbnail, bro. For real. But on that
Yeah.
note, man, I appreciate the CK coming on. We gonna
Oh yeah.
we gonna continue to, it's Women Month, so y'all welcome anytime to come on and get your build on the women. So if you put
Copy. I'll
something
see if I
together,
can
you
convince
want
some of the sisters to come through and maybe drop
yeah,
something. But
is
thank
y'all
you for
is
allowing me to
y'all
come on your
channel?
panel tonight.
No, ain't no thank you. We always, man. Kofi be trying to beg y'all to get on this mug. But yeah,
I mean, do you see how women are treated when we do get on? Like that's why they
hey,
don't
not
come
on this,
around.
not over here, no, not over here, But
Yeah, not
nah,
over
nah,
here. I
yeah,
think they just
nah,
be playing it safe. Like, see me, I ain't scared.
yeah,
I come through,
yeah,
beating up
nah,
pseudos and all.
Kofi, Satepara, Juju. No, she's supposed to do a presentation over here 3 years ago. She
And
still ain't done
she
it.
ain't do her presentation that she was supposed to do for MBK like 2 years
Man,
ago.
so yeah, I know we all waiting on the Juju presentation, but nah, anytime that the sisters want to come through and do their stuff, man, they just let us know. Meet, meet, what's his name, Chavis, Kofi. We all behind that, man. Trying to get y'all to get into the habit of, creating some content for
Yeah,
y'all
I
selves
think
so
you
you
just
can
gotta
have
stay
something to look
behind
at.
people. As soon as you see them in the chat, yo, get on this panel. We finna beat you up. You gonna do this presentation, blah blah blah. You just
Yeah,
gotta
we
keep
ain't
getting
trying to
behind
debate with
people.
nobody, man. We just want y'all to do y'all presentation and do that. We ain't listen. It's ignorant of us to just be doing everything when we know how important y'all are. I mean, now we gonna talk about women all month and all year, but at the same time, we still need y'all to step up.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
hard.
and
I be trying
Ogun
to
said he gonna do
support
women's.
everybody,
Yeah, I'm
drop
with you,
everybody's
Ogun.
channel. Just
You better do this show, Ogun.
yeah,
I'm putting it
Ogun, I
on.
need
I'm
to
putting
catch
it on the
up.
screen. It's logged now. We got on the screen log.
You said you're doing one this Saturday?
Yeah, I would do a
And
woman
actually, I
Saturday.
need
I
to
already
start
have my
sharing y'all
author before.
channel on our channel too. I'm shameful. It's just hard to keep up. Like everybody got their own channel. Y'all got multiple damn channels. Ugh.
That boy crazy. He said, tired of y'all ego driven. I'm with you, Ogun. I'd rather hear from the sisters anyway. They bring that balance, man. We need
Nah,
balance.
people they want to hear controversy. They want to hear drama. That's entertainment right there.
Well, hey, I don't know where they gonna get it at, but we want to hear from the sisters. So
Yeah, I
some of
mean, you can
us,
do
we know
both.
the
You can
importance
educate
of
and entertain at the same time.
yeah, we know the importance of the women and what I mean, building on that. So for those who get involved, say y'all women show up and show. Yeah, that's exactly. But yeah, man, I'm gonna go on the end and now, man. So appreciate it, CK. I'll catch you later.
All right.
Everybody, man, like the show, share the show, tell a friend, we live, man, and I'm gonna hit y'all with the what I'm gonna leave y'all out with. I ain't gonna hit y'all with the new little thing that I just did. I'm gonna do y'all with this one.